All right, you guys, today we are going to be working with adding and subtracting decimals. It's actually very, very easy, and so I'm hoping you'll catch on pretty quick. Some of you may have actually done this in elementary if your teacher wanted to go ahead and teach you something above grade level. But first, I want you to remind yourselves what success criteria means. It is answering the question, write this down, how do I know if I learned? So if you learned, you're going to be able to do all four success criteria. Okay, let's talk about what those are. The first success criteria is you're going to line up the decimals. Then you're going to fill in empty spaces. Then you're going to add or subtract. Then you're going to bring the decimal straight down. Okay, so they're very simple. I'm going to show you just so that you have a good example. Okay, so first I'm going to line up the decimals. So I'm going to take this problem and I'm going to line up the decimals, and I'll show you what that means. So if you can do this, where you put the decimals and then you line up all the numbers around them. Okay, so I have my two decimals, which are really important, and I just line them straight up. So I line up all of the numbers with them. So I have these two numbers, these two, and I don't have a number there, but there's that last one. Okay, so make sure you get your highlighter, do the same thing, highlight everything. The second thing it says is to fill in the empty space. So if with zeros, all right? So if I have any empty spaces like I do here above the 7, I'm going to fill in with a 0, all right? I'm going to fill that in with a 0. So any empty spaces I fill with zeros. So you line up the decimals, you fill in empty spaces with zeros, and then you start adding or subtracting. In this case, it was addition. Okay, notice I have this important piece of information from right to left. So you start all the way to the right, which is over here. Okay, let's go ahead and start adding this up. So we are going to add 0 plus 7, which is 7. Then we are going to add 1 plus 3, which is 4. Then we're going to add 2 plus 4, which is 6. And then we're going to add 1 plus 0, which is 1. So we literally just added. Okay, so that is what it means when we say add or subtract from right to left. So you start all the way to the right and you move to the left. All right, so you might want to draw an arrow going that way. Last, it says bring the decimal straight down. So if my answer was 1647, you notice here between the 1 and 6, there should be a decimal. So we're going to go ahead and put that. Between the 1 and 6, we're going to put the decimal. So that is our final answer. We just bring it straight down. So if you can do all four, don't mark them off now, but at the end, after you've done these notes, if you're like, okay, I can line up the decimals, okay, I can fill in the empty spaces with 0, I can add or subtract, I can bring the decimal straight down, then you know you've learned. Okay? So let's go ahead and get started. And I just want to remind you of one important word in our vocabulary, and that is decimal. Okay, and that is very, very easy. It's the point that separates the whole number or numbers from the part. So in this case, if you have something like 10.7, this is the whole number, and this is the part. I'll show you why right now. Because if you write it as a fraction, it would be 10 as your whole number and 7/10 as your part. So your whole and your part. Okay, so there's two more words I shouldn't have written so big, but you can go ahead and write them on the side, or you can squish them in your box. We have sum and we have difference. Okay, And most of you guys have heard these words before. Sum means to add, and difference means to subtract. So you'll see that when we're working with these two types of problems, adding and subtracting, sum and difference. Okay, so to add and to subtract. So all of that should go within your vocabulary. So in that box or on the side of your paper if you can't fit it anywhere else. All right, so let's do 3 problems. This first one's going to be a level 3 just to start off easy. Okay, so let's start off with a level 3. So here's our directions. It says add and then enter the exact sum. And for sum, I want you guys to put a little plus sign above it. Okay, so let's work with our success criteria. The first one is lining up the decimals. So we have 46.2 and we have 27.3. So we're lining them up just like that, okay? And all the numbers need to line up also. You can't just write the numbers wherever you feel like it. You have to have each one have a separate line, okay? Column. And then we know we're going to add. So let's get started. The first one is 2 plus 3. So we're going to add these, which is 5. Okay, this is success criteria number 3. Then next we're going to add 6 plus 7. Okay, and when you add that together, you get 13. So let's add that. And this is 13, so you don't just write 13 like that. Remember from elementary school, you carry the 1. Okay, and the last one, we have 4 plus 2 is 6, plus 1 more is 7. Now, our last success criteria says to bring the decimal straight down. So I have a decimal here, and I have a decimal here, so I bring it straight down. You notice how easy it is as long as you write everything nice and neat so that it lines up. If you're not writing nice and neat, I suggest that you ask me for a piece of graph paper so you can line everything up a little bit easier. Okay, so that was a level 3 because everything lines up nice and easy. We didn't have to do anything extra. But now let's do in level 4. So this time it's telling us to subtract, which means enter the exact difference. Okay, remember from our vocabulary, we know difference means subtract. Okay, so let's do the same step that we were doing before. First thing, I line up my decimals. That's my first success criteria. Okay, notice my decimal is not in the middle. That means multiplication. My decimal is on the bottom. Okay, minus. Now, I have my next decimal, and you notice it's an 8. So the 8 doesn't go here. The 8 goes underneath the 1. Okay? 4, 3, 6. Do not make the mistake that a lot of people do. They'll write it like this. 8, 4, 3, 6. So they'll just line up the numbers. You want to line up the decimals first. That's really important. So do not do this. Okay? And it's okay. You can write that down and then mark it out so that you know don't do that. Okay. Our third success criteria says that we have to fill in empty spaces with 0. So I have an empty space here. I have an empty space here. And I have an empty space here. Okay, so you should be able to line up the decimals and then fill in the empty spaces with 0. Now we are ready to subtract. Okay, remember we always go right to left. So we always go this way. Okay, so let's subtract. The first one, if I have $0, I can't take away 6 from it. So I'm going to have to borrow. Okay, so let's go ahead. If I see zeros, I already know on the top that I have to make them 10s. Okay, but now we're going to have to go back. Because I made this one a 10 right here, I'm going to have to cross this out and make it a 9 because I took it away. I borrowed it from that 10. And because I have this 10 right here, that means I borrowed it from this one. So I have to make that a 5. So I just take 1 away from each. All right, so now let's subtract. So I have to get 10 minus 6. I can do 10 minus 6, or I always do backwards. I do counting up. So after 6 comes 7, 8, 9, 10. So that's 4. After 3 comes 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I have 3, 4, 5, 6 dots. Okay. After 4 comes 1, so that's 5. It's 1 dot. Okay, or you can do 5 take away 4, 9 take away 3, however you want to do it. And then this one right here, if I have $1, I can't take away 8 from it. That doesn't work. Okay, my answer is not 7. So again, I'm going to have to make this a 1, make this an 11, and I borrowed 1 from here, so I'll put that one there. Okay, so let's, after 8 comes 9, 10, 11. So that's 3 dots. And the last one is 1 take away 0, which is 1. The last step, remember, the last success criteria says that you bring the decimal down. If you did it correctly, everything's nice and lined up, you just bring it straight down. Okay, so here is my final answer, 13.164. Right? Make sure you have everything written down there. We're going to talk about the last one. It tells us to add or enter the exact sum, which means add. The difference for this one as compared to the other ones is that we have 3 numbers here. So we're adding 3 numbers, okay? So let's go ahead and start writing them down. Let's line everything up nice and neat. Remember, that's really, really important, okay? Give yourself plenty of space to line up. In fact, I'm going to give myself a little bit more just so that you guys can make sure you do the same on your paper, okay? That's really important. The next one, remember, I don't start the 0 here. I put the decimal down first. And the 0 is right in front of the decimal. And then I have 5, 4, 6, 9. The last one, again, I put the decimal down, I line it up, and then I put the number right in front of the decimal. And I have 1, 1, 1. Okay? So I've lined everything up. That's my first success criteria. My second success criteria says I fill in all the empty spaces with 0. So I'm going to put a 0 here. I'm going to put a 0 here. Put a 0 here, here, and here. I'm going to put zeros. And if you want to use your highlighter to do that, that's totally fine. So I'm going to put them in all the empty spaces. My next success criteria says I start to add. Okay. 0 plus 9 plus 0 gives us 9. 0 plus 6 gives me 6. Plus 1 more gives me 7. Okay, let's keep going. 8 plus 4 gives me 12. Plus 1 more gives me 13. Remember, you don't just write 13 like that. Okay, that's not what you do. You have to carry the 1. Put it up here. Okay, so we have 4 plus 5 is 9. Plus 1 more is 10. Plus 1 more is 11. So again, I'm going to carry the 1. Okay, 1 plus 1 is 2. Plus 3 more is 5. And then 7 plus 0 plus 0 is 7. We're almost done. If you did this nice and neat, you lined everything up, then you just bring that decimal down. And this is your final answer.